G'day, AJ. I'm just wondering, in the celestial spirit, you mentioned earlier on about 2,000 years ago,
Yep.
which you're obviously going to get to more about that in a minute.
Yep.
Where do the archangels play a role in that, knowing that these hellish spirits were around there? And 2,000 years have gone by since their domain and establishment on Earth.
Yep.
How do they fit into it? And are there extraterrestrials from Andromeda? And there's things on the internet talking about you coming here now that like they're actually supporting you,
Yep.
but they come from another constellation in the universe and they know of this time on the Earth, and I'm wondering how they fit into this picture.
No worries. Well, there's two questions there.
Thank you.
So let's answer the first one. Who you call archangels actually are just people who lived on Earth prior to your existence. And when I lived on Earth, they were in the sixth sphere condition. Right? So you've heard of the Archangel Michael, for example, the Archangel Gabriel. They are actually people who lived on Earth prior to my existence, and up until the first century they lived in the sixth sphere condition, and they had a deep connection with God, more so than many others, and God actually used them to transmit truth to the earth when God had the opportunity. So what would happen historically is people from all walks of life on the earth, not just from Judaism walk of life, so not just a Jew, but all walks of life, they were given prophecies via these spirits, if you like, who were in the sixth sphere condition at the time. Once they learned that the divine love was open for them to receive, they were amongst the first spirits in the spirit world to receive that love. And as a result of that, they then progressed into the celestial spirit world. So after I entered the celestial spirit world, they then entered the celestial spirit world as well. So they now are actually, many of them are in a 22nd sphere state, or in the spheres between the 8th and the 22nd sphere state. You call them archangels. That's not what they call themselves. Does that make sense? And in fact, there are many spirits on earth currently trying to misrepresent them. So you notice that almost any medium you go to get some channeling, they say, oh, but I have the Archangel Michael here or the Archangel Gabriel here, and many times it's actually a first sphere, very low conditioned spirit trying to impersonate a celestial spirit. And all you need to do is challenge them, and you'll soon see the anger that comes out of them, and you'll know straight away that's not the Archangel Michael or the Archangel Gabriel. The second question you asked was about what you called like extraterrestrial beings. There are, in the spirit world, on the natural love side of things, there are literally millions and millions of different spirits who believe themselves to be, and they will say to the earth that they are actually extraterrestrials. They live in a different dimension. They are not always conscious of the fact that they are in a different dimension. So some are in low conditions. But actually last week I talked to a group of spirits who are in a sixth sphere condition, in that state where they were telling the earth they're extraterrestrials. If Mary was here, she'd be able to remind me who they were, but I can't remember. Sorry? The Pleiadians, that's right. Yeah, the Pleiadians. There was a group of Pleiadian spirits who came to talk with us. They came to talk primarily because they told me that they could help me with some of my emotions. And so we had a discussion, and then after the discussion, they actually went off and investigated a lot of divine truth, and then over a period of 3 days, quite a group of them got onto the divine love path. And then they came back and told me they can't help me with my emotions, which was quite disappointing for me. But anyway, so what actually happens in this state is that there are a lot of spirits in the spirit world who have a lot more of a metaphysical way of describing things, and they see themselves as living on different planets, which they are, and they visit the earth and they give a lot of truth to the earth, again with the same limitations of everybody else, through these filters. Right?
So when they say they've travelled so many light years to Earth,
yeah,
it's just a dimensional travel through them, because they're at the sixth sphere. They're able to tune into the Earth in its poor state and come here and try and help and impress on us a higher style.
Well, the second dimension, for example, is actually hundreds of light years from Earth. Right? So I draw it like a line and call it a different dimension, but it's actually hundreds of light years from Earth, which, by the way, if you're a celestial spirit, you can traverse in an instant. So it's like it doesn't even exist in terms of distance. But does that make sense?
Yeah, excellent, thanks.
So there's a lot of metaphysical misunderstanding, I suppose you could say, of what's really going on. But the natural love spirits who are like the Pleiadians, who are wanting to affect the Earth in a positive way, even if it's in a natural love way, they're in a much better condition than the spirits that I'm speaking of. The spirits that I'm speaking of, these ones in this hellish condition, you could think of them all as demons, right? In the sense that their entire life is dedicated to your destruction. Now, if you're feeling afraid about that, then deal with some fear about that, because it is an actual truth. But we do need to release our fear about this. Obviously, God is much stronger than any spirit. And in fact, these spirits have very little power unless it's through your unhealed emotion. And this is why your emotional work is so important. We're going to discuss that, how you can actually battle for your own soul. That's the point of this discussion. If we come down.